Guys, it's Quana back again with another This Is Us review and recap. Hope you guys are having an amazing evening. Just finished watching This Is Us season 6 episode 8 entitled Tarman. This is the first in the big 3 trilogy of this season, focusing on Kevin. As always, we know Kevin goes first because he is the firstborn. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the pacing of this episode was a bit slow, and I also didn't like that they didn't focus as much on Kevin, but really I felt like the stars of the night went to 2 of the other characters. And so while I appreciate the payoff at the end, it was just slightly lackluster for me. But before I go into a full recap of tonight's episode and also my thoughts and predictions for what's to come, do me a favor and click the subscribe button down below. Please help us get to 300. And while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up. Now, spoilers for tonight's episode. So if you haven't watched already, go ahead and watch and then come back and enjoy the recap. All right, so tonight's episode picks up right where last week's left off, with the end of Thanksgiving and Kevin really taking heart to Rebecca's words to go out there and live life and face challenges. And we see him doing that with trying to raise the twins, trying to be the best dad possible. We didn't see Madison this episode. It's really focused on Kevin's relationship with the twins, which I think and I feel like foreshadows a lot of what we're going to get in the future. Perhaps, even some maybe foreshadowing for what happens, whether or not he and Madison get back together. We still don't know, but I definitely think it's a bit ominous that we didn't see her in this episode. What we do see is Kevin with that daggone guitar. And I keep waiting for Toby to come in the room and break it. He's trying to get the twins to sleep, and they're not going to sleep. The back and forth with them and them trying to establish a pattern, and it's struggling. And it was really nice to see, Kevin. One, we know how much family means to him, how much being a dad means to him. It was nice to see him kind of struggle through it and not give up and not just like break down and cave in. But he really struggled through it throughout the whole episode, and he kept with it, and he kept trying to get better and better about being with the twins. Of course, we didn't see him with them a lot this episode, but I feel like that has a lot more to do with COVID and also just the legalities of having babies on sets. But it would have been nice to see him in a bit more of the scenes at the cabin with them. Speaking of the cabin, he decides, for some genius idea, because he's Kevin, that he is going to trek across the country with 2 twin babies to go to stay in a cabin that they are not going to remember because they are 1 year old. And I get it. This is Jack's son. He's all about memories because that was Jack's thing, and that is Kevin's thing and Randall's thing. All about the memories. But I just kept thinking, like, dude, my husband even said to me, they're 1. Are they going to remember that? And I'm like, yeah, no, they're not going to remember any of this. But it was important to him. And so he suffers through taking them on a commercial flight across the country without any help. I certainly would not have been the one, so kudos to him. It was nerve-wracking having 2 toddlers at the airport, and I had my husband with me. I definitely would not have been the 1 or the 2, so kudos to him for that. Of course, everybody is looking at him, and he keeps making this little joke about celebrities being regular people. This is the part of Kevin that I don't love, which is just that need for attention that he has. Like, he has to draw attention to himself. Obviously, you've got 2 crying babies. It's not really self-deprecating humor that you're saying you're a celebrity. Like, if you have to say that you're a celebrity, that says more about your need for attention than does anyone else paying attention to him. But I thought it was interesting that no one else was really paying attention to him, especially because we had that whole sequence of events going on when Madison was pregnant and when he and Madison were trying to figure out their whole relationship with the paparazzi and whatnot, that no one was paying attention, that he felt so comfortable and so safe taking these 2 twins out, especially because right now he's filming a show, so it's not like he's incognito somewhere. He's on a show, he's still acting, and it's not been that long since he's made these movies. So I just thought that was an interesting um, plot choice that I probably wouldn't have made. I probably would have at least shown that, maybe people were looking at him. Maybe people were trying to noticing, oh, hey, that's the Manny right there with two babies. Anywho, he makes it to the cabin and gets reunited with Nikki and Edie, Vanessa Bell Calloway. I'm so glad that they brought her onto the show. Just plucked at my heartstrings, and she's definitely kind of like a spicy character, flirtatious. And it's so good to see Nikki finally find love. Like, he just wanted to be loved for so long. And it's so cute seeing them together. And Nikki had a little bit of moves. They were dancing. I was like, okay, Nikki, I see you. But also who's there and taking over the build of the cabin is Cassidy. Jennifer Morrison as Cassidy. Jennifer Morrison playing Emma Swan on Once Upon a Time, one of my favorite shows. A great role for her. Of course, she was also in House. I don't love what they've done with Cassidy, because we went from having Cassidy as like a viable potential love interest. And I'm not saying that she's not that, but they've unpacked so much and they've distanced themselves from that storyline so much that if they were to go back to that at this point, I wouldn't want it. Like, at this point, now that they've established that they're platonic friends and that they're going to just have a friendship, I want it to just stay that. She's there with her son, who is struggling with the fact that she's gone through this divorce, and she is struggling with PTSD and struggling with dealing with Kevin and his ego over the build of this cabin, which, sir, you do not know how to build houses. Let the experts handle it. They made a mistake. They're fixing it. Just walk away. Kevin was really on one for most of this episode, and he was falling back into some old egotistical ways that I feel like this is where the show falters a little bit, because we've seen through several seasons now him grow and mature and try to become less egotistical, and then he falls right back into those same trappings. It's like he can never fully get out of his ego and out of his own way, and he keeps sticking his foot in his mouth time and time again. Well, finally, they've had a nice dinner, they've had a nice night, and the phone rings, waking him up in the middle of the night, and it is Cassidy. She's been in a car accident. I'm first of all like, hold up. How'd she leave her whole son in the cabin? Yeah, you had other people there, but you just got up in the middle of the night, didn't tell anybody, and left your son there. Like, who does that? But she got in an accident, and of course, Kevin thinks that it has to do with alcohol because she's a recovering alcoholic. Nikki knows better. He's like, I've seen the signs. This was not alcohol. Like, she's going through it. And we find out that she has been struggling with sleep, insomnia, using driving to kind of help her cope with that. And she finally gets sleepy and decides she's going to let the sleep take her. That scene where Nikki gives the monologue to Kevin about just being there and seeing things and being aware of what's going on was so powerful. And definitely the most powerful moment of the night, coming second to Jennifer Morrison's monologue in the hospital, where she's tearing up and talking about just wanting to let the sleep take her. And touching scenes. And I almost felt like we had a very Nikki-centric episode where they went to go try to find his old love and find her, and he that realizes that that's not going to be the thing in this episode that leads into him meeting Edie. But I felt like I would have rather them have given us a Nikki episode and made it Cassidy centered, because they're friends and she's his sponsor and they have a relationship and a bond. And I think everything that happened in tonight's episode, it didn't have to have Kevin. Kevin didn't have to be there for that. And he was definitely, to me, a secondary character in his own episode. And I just feel like that is where sometimes, rather than just give in and letting these offshooting family members have their storylines like they've done with Beth and they've done with Toby. It's also a bit frustrating because they still haven't given Miguel his episode yet. And here we have a Cassidy and Nikki based episode and Miguel still hasn't had an episode. And it's like, frustration. I'm Team Miguel, so I want Miguel to have an episode. Ultimately, Kevin shows up. I don't know what is it with Kevin about talking to like random strangers and confessing his whole life story, but when he was talking to that man in the waiting room about, just never feeling like he's enough and everything and spilling his whole heart out, I was looking at that man like, this man has tears in his eyes. He looks like he's wrecked. You don't know if this man's wife just died, what's going on, and you are confessing your whole life story about your friend who you don't even really know what's going on, who has survived a car accident. Like, read the room, Kevin. It's not the time. It's not the time. But ultimately, things work out with Cassidy, with Kevin. But I'm going to get to the ending of that in just a second. I want to talk about the flashback because we had 2 flashbacks. Of course, we're still dealing with like a young adult Kevin post cheating on Sophie, and he and Randall and Kate go to the pool where they used to swim when they were little, and he finally gets to touch the drain because he wanted to touch the drain off and dive into the pool when he was little, and they're drinking and they're kind of like, woe is me. I will say the actor who is playing that young adult Kevin, he has got Justin Hartley's voice down like to a T. Like, it's so uncanny how well he has his voice down that it sounds like almost like Justin Hartley's doing a voiceover in that moment. I like seeing them together, but I also didn't feel like that added too much because we've already seen Kevin struggle with his identity, struggle with feeling like he's not enough, like he's not deep enough, like no one's going to ever take him seriously. Like, we've already seen that again and again and again and again and again, like multiple episodes every season, with that being Kevin's hang up. So seeing it again, there was nothing new that added to this except for him saying that he never felt like he was deep enough, but feeling like Kevin and Randall and Kate were deep enough, and then also Kate affirming him and saying he'll get it together someday. But we've also had everyone tell him that he's going to get it together. So I didn't feel like I needed that scene. We did have a flashback to the little big 3 at the pool, learning how to swim with Jack and Rebecca. Obviously, these scenes are going to connect to each episode with whatever the characters are struggling with. And this is like showing the seeds of those things. But again, with the original young characters, we've gotten a lot of these scenes where we've seen their struggles. We've seen what their insecurities are. And so the reality is the scene is there to give Milo an opportunity to be in the episode, to give Mandy an opportunity to be in the episode. Mandy doesn't really need it because she has been in Rebecca-centered episodes this season, and she's definitely going to get, to me, an Emmy nomination. I'd be shocked as if she doesn't get it. But I feel like this is just what I've been saying in the past few episodes, them trying to make sure that they include Milo in each episode so that he can still get that top billing for being there for the season. He can still get that residual check every episode that plays. He's still there. So I didn't feel like even that we've had the pool. I will say, I think that is the one nice thing, is I feel like we've gotten the significance of the pool for almost every season. And so that coming back to that full circle and making sure that we have those pool moments in this season, this connects back to the beginning. So that's nice. But aside from that, I didn't feel like there was anything new that was added. It was just like, take your time, Kevin. You're going to get it. You got to swim before you dive. And that was this episode about, he has to build himself up. He's been so busy worried about love and finding somebody and who is he going to be with. And even in all of the chats and on Twitter, everyone was like, oh, is it Sophie? No, we still don't know. We still don't know who the wife is yet, because at the end of the day, we can't get there yet until Kevin finally grows all the way up and becomes the man he needs to be. And this episode got him there. I just feel like I wish it would have gotten him there with more of an internal focus and not like, I'm witnessing my friend go through this struggle and this is the thing that's going to make me grow up. I feel like they could have done it another way, that it was been more focused on like him really dealing with himself, challenging himself, seeing him like come to terms with himself. Because I just feel like we've seen this before. We know it's going to stick. They're not going to do another season, but I just felt like it was a little flat for me. At the end of it all, I thought it was really sweet that he gave Cassidy's son the guitar. Thank God, because I'm about done with him and that guitar. We don't need to see it. What we do need to see is him going back to the things that he does love, the painting, the drawing. And we finally get him illustrating the Big Three logo, which we know we've seen in the time jump from Kate's wedding. They do start that company that he names after Kate and Randall. I don't know if they're going to invest in the company, or if it even matters if they invest in the company or not. He names it after them. So now we know it's not necessarily that the three of them are in business together. It's Cassidy and Nikki are going to help him run the business. And so they're going to be the big three, even though it's named after the big three, Kate, Kevin, and Randall. So I thought that was really sweet, a really sweet way to end the episode. And of course, we end with Kevin heading back home to California with the twins, and he's finally got the hang of things. And I will say that is the nicest thing about Kevin. Like, Kevin, as frustrating as he is and immature as he can be sometimes, he really does want to be a good dad. And so whenever they lean into that, that's where it shines. I still don't like the fact that Madison did not go with him to Thanksgiving or let him take the twins for Thanksgiving. Now we know plot wise why that had to happen. But like I said, I do kind of wish this episode would have been more focused on Kevin, because I don't feel like it focused on Kevin quite enough. To me, if you're not the star of your solo episode, and the star of your solo episode is Uncle Nikki, run it again. To do over. I'd be asking for a do-over if I was Justin Hartley. Like, you let Uncle Nikki shine over me. Come on now. You gave him the stronger lines of the episode. But it was the payoff of the ending was nice. But I will admit that the pacing of the episode was a little slow. Not my favorite of the season. Last week still was a whole lot better. I do anticipate the awkwardness and the conflict of next episode with Kate and Toby to be a little bit more invigorating. But I'm telling you, we know Randall gets hard-hitting episodes. He's in there, he's giving the notes about his character, and that's going to be, I think, a really good episode, because we're finally going to get that confrontation between him and Deja, and I think we're probably going to have some kind of falling out. But it'd be interesting to see like exactly where they take his episode as well. So those are my thoughts for tonight's episode of This Is Us. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about the episode. I did see some mixed opinions online. Some people love Justin Hartley, and some people were like, Kevin again. So let me know down below in the comments how you feel about Kevin, how you feel about Justin, and did you feel like this was truly a Kevin episode, or are you like me thinking that Uncle Nikki really stole the show? Because I think we all know that Uncle Nikki stole the show. And if Dan Fogelman, if you happen to hop into the video, please give Miguel an episode. We're ready for it. I'm telling you what, episode 11, we need to be going down to Houston with Miguel and seeing Miguel's life without Rebecca for those years where they were apart. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you tonight, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, toodles. Hey, wait a minute. Did I tell you guys to subscribe? Hey, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and share this video. Bye.